right, what's going on, everybody? How are we doing tonight? I hope everybody is doing very good and having lots of fun, enjoying their weekend, doing the fun stuff, and all that fun things. But yeah. So for me over here, I'm just getting back from filming the first part of the second Enigma series that I'm going to put out, and getting back from Bankhead. It was a great time. It was really hot. Got ate up with some chiggers, and that's never fun. But did some glamping, even though I was out in the middle of desolation. Had a generator and an air conditioner. Always a good thing. But anyways, enough of that. So you guys know the drill. Make sure that as you're coming in, you do the likes and the comments, subscribes. Got merch if you guys like merch. You know, do the things. Y'all know that I hate self-promotion, but there's things there if you want to be there. Well, guys, now that that's out of the way, let's get to the meat and taters, shall we? Tonight I've got a very interesting guest on, and I'm very sure that you guys have heard him. He is quite the legend. So without further ado, let's get Mr. Vic up here. Vic!
Hey, Jim. Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey,
now, who's
man.
this legend that you're going to bring on tonight?
Well, this guy named Vic Cundiff. I mean, he's been around and seen a thing or two. So, yeah, I was thinking that guy. What do you think?
Well, he's not a legend, trust me, but thanks nonetheless.
Well, anything I can do, man. Anything I can do. But, yeah, man, give us a little bit of a brief overview about you, who you are, and what you get up to, bro.
Well, I've always been really interested in things that go bump in the night. I wound up co-hosting a Sasquatch-specific podcast called Campfire Shadows back in 2007 and 2008 with the now since deceased Shane McMahon, unfortunately. And then in 2014, I brought my biggest podcast online with the first episode. That podcast is called Dogman Encounters Radio. And
Right.
then in 2015, I brought Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio online. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I brought a new Bigfoot podcast online called My Bigfoot Sighting. And the way My Bigfoot Sighting differs from Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio, which I produce both podcasts to this day, My Bigfoot Sighting is a true storytime format. There is no
Right.
talk from me. There's no back and forth. It's just 100% content from the guests, sharing their experiences, their sightings that they've had over the years with Sasquatch. And
Right.
then just recently here, about a month or so ago, well, I guess actually about 2 months ago, I started airing episodes of my new Dogman podcast called Dogman Tales. Now, Dogman Tales features, unlike Dogman Encounters, which features true encounters with dogmen, Dogman Tales features fictional stories about dogmen. So, yeah, I produced the 4 podcasts. That's enough to keep you busy, definitely.
Man, I can only imagine. I'm hamstrung all the time trying to keep this going, so I can imagine what 4 is like. That's pretty serious there, man. You're my hero.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but with all the experience over the years, doing this has brought me, you learn how to adjust and still get the job done.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing. Now, from what I understand, as we were chatting a little earlier, outside of all this, you two have had a little bit of experience with Bigfoot as well, right?
Where do you hear that, Jim? Why do you think that? No, I'm just messing with you. Yeah, I've had 3 experiences that I could attribute to Sasquatch. I can't say definitively that any of those were definitely Sasquatch encounters, but when you hear the circumstances behind them, you'll understand why I've got that opinion that there's a strong possibility that all 3 could have involved a Sasquatch.
Right. Well, yeah, man. Let's get into it a little bit.
All right. Well, the first one happened about 40 years ago when I was deer hunting. And back then, I had a neighbor who he was the true essence of an outdoorsman. I mean, you name it, hunting, camping, fishing, just all sorts of things. Anything you could do outside that is fun, he's done or he had done. But I would just go over and sit on that man's couch and just sit for hour after hour listening to him share experience after experience about the things he had done. And it's funny because one evening I was sitting over there and he'd just been talking about this experience, that experience. And then all of a sudden he says, oh, like he had a revelation. Oh, did I ever tell you about the time I was attacked by a bear? And I thought, what? You've got to be kidding me. Attacked by a bear in addition to everything else you've done? No, that's awfully hard to believe. And he said, yeah, I have. So he picks his leg up, he had slacks on, had brown slacks on. I'll never will forget it. He pulled his slacks back and revealed his calf. Now he's holding his leg parallel to the floor. So as he's holding his leg up like that, the muscle belly of his calf is just like hanging there from his leg, like you would expect. Well, he went on to tell me, he said, you see these marks? And I take a close look and yeah, you can see the pock marks, like the tooth marks, the dents from wounds left by teeth that are further apart. It's definitely a canine bear mouth pattern, but they're too far apart to be dog teeth. So you can, we're talking bear spacing here. Well, he goes on to tell me how he was hunting up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. That's where he was from, and he had spent a lot of time up there. Well, he was in this pine thicket, and all of a sudden he just got this feeling, I guess a hair in his butt stood up. He had this feeling like he was being watched or something. And he was in the middle of nowhere, so that shouldn't be the case. So he just stops and he's listening, and he doesn't hear anything. So he thinks, you know what? I can't see a thing in this dense pine thicket. So what I'll do is I'll just drop down to the ground and look around and see what I can see. So he did that. And when he did, he's looking around, and then he sees this black bear that's doing the same thing he's doing. It had been laying flat, looking underneath the pine boughs at him. And from how he told it, when he noticed it, when he saw it looking at him, it charged him. And when it did, he jumped to his feet. He had a rifle with him at the time that he was hunting with. He jumped to his feet, and about as soon as he had gotten to his feet, it busted through the boughs and it knocked him down, and it bit him on the leg there. So yeah, he showed me the evidence. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. This guy, he's the real deal. Well, sometime after that, not in that same evening or anything, but sometime after that, he said, we're coming up on fall. He said, I'll tell you what, Vic, I know how much you like the outdoors and you come down here and you love listening to my stories. How about you go get licensed for hunting deer? And if you do that, then I'll take you down to the farm, because he had a farm way out in the sticks, way out in the sticks. He said, I'll take you down to the farm with me on the day before opening day of deer season, and I'll take you out and put you in a good spot, and we'll see if you can't get a deer. I said, well, that sounds like a plan to me, definitely. So I went and got my license, and before I knew it, it was the day before season, so we were heading down to his farm. Well, excuse me, we headed down to his farm, and we turned off the highway, the country road. I can't remember what kind of a highway or road it was, but we turned off and onto his property, and we're driving down this 2-track lane, and we drive a good distance, and there's woods on either side of us. And then eventually it opens up into like somewhat of a clearing, and there's a pasture on the right side with horse fence and everything. Well, there's this bay horse that's got his head down, and he's feeding on the grass there next to the fence. And I looked at the horse, and I've always been a horse nut, and he knew that. And I said something about the horse, and he said, well, that's Red right there. He said, stay away from him. He'll kill you. Oh, don't need to tell me twice, point taken. So we never stopped. We just continued on and back into the woods. There was woods on both sides, and before too long, on the right-hand side, it opened up again. And there's another horse pasture. Maybe it was the same pasture that wrapped around that copse of trees. that we had just gone through. But nonetheless, there was a horse fence there and another pasture on the right side, and there's another bay horse with its head down. I looked at that horse, and I can't remember what he said the horse's name was, but he said, yeah, that's so-and-so. He's fine. If you want to pet him, that's totally fine. Okay, fair enough. Good. So we continued on, and eventually we made it to his farmhouse. Well, we got out, and we took everything inside, and we had something to drink and eat and whatever. Before too long, it was time for dinner. So we had dinner, then I went up to bed in the loft, and he headed to his bedroom, and before you knew it, bright and early that morning, well, it wasn't bright, it was still dark out. I got up and I went downstairs, and he was already down there, and we had breakfast. And then before too long, he said it was time to get geared up. So I did, and he did. And then before you know it, we're heading out his door, and we walked out the door, and we headed over to a fairly good distance over to this place, down a big hollow, up the other side, down a big hollow, up the other side in the woods. And we finally got to the spot, walking down this steep, long bank of this big hollow. We got about halfway down when he said, all right, this is your spot. Go ahead and get set up. And he said, I'll be hunting a few ridges over. He said, right before dark, I'll walk in and I'll get you on the way back to the farmhouse. I said, okay, great. He said, remember everything I told you, and you should do well. Okay, great, I'll do that. So he walked off, and I could hear him walking down the hollow, and then I can hear him walking back up the other side, because there's about a foot of tree trash all over the place, because it's an old growth forest. Big trees, big trees. Well, before too long, his tramping through the forest there, through those leaves, he just walked out of earshot. I couldn't hear him anymore. So I've got the whole hollow to myself. Well, I'm just sitting there, and before too long, the sun started to come up. And as it did, I'm looking around, getting my bearings and everything, because I've never been here before. Well, I'm looking around, getting my bearings, and remembering everything he told me, and I'm doing what he told me to do. No sudden movements. Try to scan with your eyes as much as possible instead of your head. If you have to move your head, move slowly. Well, it wasn't too long before I noticed that the woods were dead. Nothing was going on. Didn't see any squirrels even or anything like that. It's just like, what in the world?
Right.
Well, I'm sitting there bored out of my mind because nothing's going on. I sat there, and before too long, sometime after noon, I don't know if it was closer to noon or closer to 12:30, but it was sometime after noon. All of a sudden, I'm leaning up against this fairly big oak tree. I call it a big oak tree, but as far as oaks go, this wasn't exactly the biggest oak I've ever seen, but it's still sizable. So I'm leaning up against this sizable oak tree when all of a sudden, from I'd say 20 feet behind me or less, I hear this loud horse whinny. And the sound of it, the volume of the air moving, all that, you would swear that it was a horse. It had to be a horse 20 feet behind you or maybe a little less. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, that really caught me off guard and left me out of sorts, because there aren't supposed to be any horses out here. And that close to me, 20 feet or less behind me, and I can't see it. That's strange. And then before too long, I hear this horse blow. Now, a strange thing about horses can't breathe through their mouth. They can only breathe through their nostrils. Well, because of that, that's why you are always hearing horses clearing their nostrils, because if you could only breathe through your nose, you'd be really particular about keeping it clear too. Well,
very true.
If they get one really crossways up there, then they'll do what's called a blow. It's basically where they take a full breath of air and then they do a cough basically through their nostrils. And because of how big their lungs are and how powerful their muscles are in their diaphragm, when they do a blow, they empty all those contents right now. That's a lot of air to be moving through their nostrils. And it makes a really concussive sound. And you can pretty much, if you're close enough, you'll feel kind of like a concussion almost. If you're not expecting it, if you're close to a horse that does a blow, a good blow, it can frighten you out of your boots. Well, I'm sitting there with my back against this tree and I hear a full volume horse blow, 20 feet, maybe a little less behind me. And yeah, it scared the dickens out of me. So I'm sitting there And I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because this just doesn't make sense. And then the idea crept into my head. Oh, Red. Did Red follow me here? Did he follow us out here? And I'm about to experience death by horse, death by devil
Right.
horse out here.
Right.
Well, then reason crept in. I'm looking around. I'm on a big slope of a hollow that's too steep for anything but the craziest horse to even think about trying to navigate. And two, there was at least a foot of tree trash all over the place, a mixture of oak leaves, sycamore leaves, and some other hodgepodges of leaves. But a horse couldn't have got within 300 yards, 400 yards of me without me hearing it. So it doesn't make sense. So when you combine the sounds I heard that close behind me, the fact that there's just no way a horse could have gotten there or anywhere close to directly behind me like that without me hearing it, there's just no way it could have been a horse. Well, if it's not a horse, and also I forgot to mention, I looked around the tree trunk one way, didn't see anything. And then I looked around the tree trunk the other way, didn't see anything. I forgot to share that. But yeah, if it was a horse, I would have seen it also. But nothing. Didn't see anything back there. So, I mean, you tell me, what else could it have been?
I mean, there's not much. There's not much. I mean, even a cat would make noise, right? I don't think Michigan's particularly known for that, but...
Well, see, that's the thing. The lung volume required to make the sounds I heard, especially that blow. I mean, I've heard plenty of horses do blows before, and yeah, whatever was back there and did that blow, we're talking about 1,000-pound creature. To have lungs of that volume that I heard, and I actually felt the concussion, we're talking about 1,000-pounder to be able to do that. I'm a big guy, but there's no way that with my lung volume I could approach what I heard. So I just don't see what else it could have been. I've never wanted to be one of those people who just jumps to the conclusion that, okay, well, I heard a twig snap, so it's got to be a Sasquatch in the forest. But I'm just telling you what I experienced, and you come to your own conclusion. My conclusion is, what could it have been except for a Sasquatch?
Right. You know, you bring up a good point, because when I was out in the field last, well, not last, but next to last, you know, when I was out there in Tennessee, and while we were walking through, I mean, there was just plenty of leaves down. Like, you know, I could have been able to hear myself and Harley coming through, no problem, from hundreds of yards away. And the experiences that we had of these things coming right up in on us, I mean, they were just completely silent. The only time they weren't is when they ran. And that it blows my mind when that is the case. You know, I don't know how to explain that. I mean, are they trained forest ninjas, or is there something a little bit more extra going on? You know, it's very strange. But yeah, I understand what you're saying for sure, man.
Yeah, it really does make you wonder. It definitely does.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear about the second time I had an experience?
Sure.
That might have been a Sasquatch. Well, as you can imagine, producing as many podcasts as I do, and also I help Dogman Eyewitnesses come to terms with their encounters. Well, when I get time to sneak away, I like to head into the forest and go on nice long walks, or I'll go for a walk out in the country. Well, one day, this was a while ago, this was actually years ago, but one day I thought, you know what, it's a beautiful day out there, I've got some time, so what I'll do is I'll just go for a nice walk and clear my head. Well, I decided to do that, and there's this one spot here where you can walk up and over an arch bridge that goes over this brook. It's called a creek, but it's actually a brook. Well, I parked the truck and I walked for a distance, fairly good distance, and then I got to that bridge and I walked up and over that brook on the bridge, and I continued on through this green field about between a quarter mile and 3/8 of a mile before I thought, okay, well, I better turn around and head back. Well, it wasn't really 3/8 of a mile. It was a little over, I'd say, a
Mhm.
quarter mile when I turned around. Well, I turned around, and not long after, I don't know how many steps I had taken, maybe as little as 7 or 8, maybe 10. When all of a
Mhm.
sudden I see this motion on that arch bridge that I had just come over. So I looked up at the bridge. I didn't expect to see anyone or anything. So I look at the bridge to see, okay, well, what am I seeing here? What kind of motion? What's making this? What's moving up and over the
Right.
bridge towards me, coming over to my side of the bridge? Well, I see this figure come into view, and it's just jet black. It's
Mm.
blacker than black. And what
Mm.
it was had to be, I'd say it was at least my height or
Mhm.
taller. It might have been as tall as 7 feet,
Mhm.
but it was probably, it had shoulders that were probably about I don't think his shoulders could have been 3 feet wide, but everything on it, black. If it was a
Right.
person, one thing that really caught me, that really struck me, was at the top of its head. It was
Mhm.
either a guy wearing a super black sweatshirt with the hood pulled up with that point of the hood. You know, some sweatshirt
Right.
hoods have a
Mhm.
pronounced point to the hood, and
Right.
the front part of the hood is down. Well,
Mhm.
I noticed a pronounced point sticking up. And if it was a person, he had to be wearing jet black clothing, jet black
Right.
shoes, everything black. Where the subject's face was, black. Nothing. Hands, black. I'd say black gloves too. It was a summer day. It was
Hmm.
probably, I can't remember exactly what kind of temperature it was, but I think it was probably hovering around 80-ish or so.
Right.
So I see this figure come up and over the arch bridge. And another thing that really caught me, not just the point on top of his head or its head, the
Mhm.
way he or it was moving was off, was strange,
Mm.
because whatever you want to call it, it
Mhm.
was doing this, it was plucking its feet. It was like when it was running, when it would pick up its feet, it looked like it was plucking, almost like he or it had stepped into a glue trap, and you have to exert a little bit of effort to break that bond and pop it.
Oh.
He was snatching his feet, plucking his feet off the
Mhm.
ground in that manner as he was
Right.
coming up and over that bridge. Well, the green field was right around 6 feet tall, so I
Mhm.
could still see over it, but green fields aren't totally even. You've got higher
Right.
areas, lower areas, so there's only so much of the subject I could see. Well, when he
Mhm.
got to the top of the arch, I could see pretty much all of him. But as he's coming over to my side, I see less and less until finally he came down onto the ground on my side. And when he did, he turned right. Well, yeah, his right, my left. So he
Mhm.
turned right, and I can see him moving. I see his head moving over the top of the green field. And then
Mhm.
it just kind of, I don't know if the ground must have sloped down or something, but you see less and less of his head, and then he just was out of sight. And I knew when I saw him up on that arch of the bridge, I'm thinking, okay, if it is a Sasquatch, I've got a
Right.
very small window of time to take in every feature I can
Mhm.
before I lose the ability to see anything really. So I
Right.
tried to notice all I could, but all I saw was just a black figure, blacker than black figure. Like I said, if it was a man, he had to be wearing the blackest pants you've ever seen, blackest sweatshirt. The
Right.
sweatshirt must have been cinched tight around his face. I mean, until he had just a little peephole, because I
Mhm.
didn't see any color of the face. He had to be wearing black gloves, black shoes, just everything black. So
Mm.
I'm a tall guy. I don't run across guys that are my height very often at all.
Right.
And looking at him compared to that bridge, I say he had to be my height or maybe a little bit taller. He
Mhm.
might have been 7 feet.
Right.
So, yeah, I've got 2 feet. My shoulders are 2 feet wide, or right about 2 feet wide.
Mhm.
And his shoulders were probably the same width as mine, or maybe a little bit wider. But if they were wider, not much. So that's also the strange thing. If it was a Sasquatch, if he was that tall, a 6-foot Sasquatch. You would think a 6-foot Sasquatch would still have 3-foot wide shoulders. There's no
Right.
reason why a Sasquatch that's even 6 feet tall would have shoulders my width.
Mm-hmm.
He would have to have shoulders that are at least a foot wider, So that's one of the things that really threw me off. I'm not really sure what to make of it. You got things on this side that make you think, well, it must have been a Sasquatch, but that right there makes me wonder how it could have been a Sasquatch if its shoulders weren't any wider than mine, or if so, not that much wider. So I don't know what to think about that.
Now, were you able to see like the length of its arms or legs or anything like that?
I saw the length of his arms, its arms, and I don't really remember them being disproportionately long. But I can't say for sure on that because it's been so long and I was just so shocked by the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think they were disproportionately long.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, what you're saying is striking many accords with me because I mean, and granted, like, when people tell me their stories, I can only reflect back on like essentially what I've seen to be able to relate to it, right? And what you're telling me with blacker than black is striking a lot of chords because for instance, like the very first thing that kicked all of my series of events off, was like essentially what I call the alien in my driveway. And, those things 7-8 foot tall or whatever, but it was blacker than the blackest black as well. I refer to it almost like a reverse predator cloak. Instead of seeing through it, because I've got a light on this thing, it almost looks like it's just absorbing all the light. Like everything is lit up around it vaguely because it's a floodlight, not a spotlight. But this thing was just, like flat black. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, maybe like this foam kind of like the flatness of it, but yet just so impenetrably black at the same time. I don't know what to make of all that. Like, I don't know what that is, but I mean, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I know what you're talking about, and I mean, it's the same thing with shadow figures. It's the same thing. I don't know what it is. I've seen a Bigfoot now, like the one that ran out in front of me in the road when I was filming in Georgia. I could see through its fur to see skin underneath in certain areas of its body, but its fur was the same way, just so dark and black, but yet flat looking, like it's just absorbing all the light. And I don't know what to make of it. How many stories have you heard that kind of piggyback off of what you're saying?
I've heard about a lot of stories where eyewitnesses saw Sasquatch and they described the fur that way, being so black. But I mean, it's not like that's unprecedented in the animal kingdom. Bison, for example, their fur does that. If you shine a flashlight or headlights on a bison's fur, it absorbs that light. So it's not unprecedented.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting, and for me, that's what we call here, one of those little threads. I mean, it's just one more person adding another thread into this pile that's connecting. So thank you for that, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about that you've experienced?
Well, there's one more time I was heading down the road here out in the country, and I looked down for something. And when I looked back up some distance down the road ahead, I saw what made me take a double take. It looked like it might have been a black leg, a hairy black leg disappearing behind this tree trunk. I'm thinking, what in the world? Did I just see what I thought I saw? So naturally, I just continued on down the road. I was doing about 50, 55 at the time. And once I got to where that tree was, it was pretty open. I looked to see if I could see anything hiding behind the tree. Didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me or what, but yeah, that's another experience, strange experience that happened. Might have been
Right.
my mind, my eyes playing tricks on me. I really don't know.
I mean, anything's possible, but I mean, I don't know. I'm one to go with your gut. What's your gut tell you after? Because Lord knows, like, whenever you have any kind of experience at all, like, you're gonna rationalize it and go over it and go over it and go over it to death. I mean, and at the end of all that processing, I mean, if you still feel like in your gut that's what it is, I'm inclined to believe you, or at least that's how I do it. I mean, maybe people don't rationalize their sightings as much as I did. I don't know. It's one of those things that I wrestled with for a long time, trying to make sense of it, because it's kind of like it's like the phenomenon of uncanny valley. You see something and your brain wants to put it into a box to try to understand it, but when the square peg doesn't fit in the round hole, then what do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Some people will try to force that peg, the round peg, into the square hole, which I don't think that's the right thing to do either, because now you're trying to justify your stance, your opinion on what's going on. And I mean, that's not good, in my opinion.
Sure. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things. Some people, they're very closed off and closed-minded on this once they've made a decision on what they think is actually going on. And I say it all the time, it's okay to disagree, but always be respectful and mindful of other people and their perspective of where they come from, with all this, because there might be a reason why they're thinking the way they do. Granted, I don't personally see these things as some kind of remnant Gigantopithecus blackie. I would like for that to be the case, but I don't think that is the case personally. I mean, if so, then wow, that's probably the best swimming animal to have ever existed, because it's all over the world on every single continent, and every culture has a story about it. But maybe they are good swimmers. I don't know. I feel like island hopping isn't the easiest thing in the world, especially back in the day when that would have had to taken place, because sharks and stuff, but I could be wrong. But the point is that, there's so many other viewpoints and perspectives, and not everybody's going to be on the same page with everything. And it's important to be respectful no matter what, and do your best to meet people where they are with it. I'm sure that you've definitely learned that years and years ago doing all these podcasts, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I definitely did. And touching on what you just shared, there's so many things about Sasquatch that just flat out do not make sense. I mean, their bodies are clearly adapted for brachiating through trees, through the branches of trees, with their long arms and their structure. Well, it wouldn't make sense that a creature that's adapted for brachiating like that to be so fast, to be able to outrun creatures like ungulates, which are adapted for speed, for running really fast. But they can effortlessly run down a deer, anything else in the woods that they want to run down. So that does not make sense at all. They can swim like it's going out of style. I mean, they've been seen by credible eyewitnesses swimming more than 200 yards underwater without coming up. I mean, that just does not make sense at all. I mean, there's so many things they do. Their stealth, their ability to move, like you just shared with us about their ability to move around in heavy leaf cover without making a sound at all. I mean, if you're adapted for brachiating through the branches off the ground, it wouldn't make sense that you'd be so talented at moving around on the ground in such a silent way, and to be able to do so many of the things that they can do. Spider crawling, the way they have been seen doing by so many credible eyewitnesses. I mean,
Right.
why would a creature that's adapted to brachiate, why would it be so good at that? There's so many things about these guys that just do not make sense. Their sight, I mean, all the amazing things they do during the daytime, sight-wise.
Right.
A hunter being in full camo up in a tree stand, and there's a Sasquatch that apparently doesn't even know the hunter's there until he whistles or makes the sound. The Sasquatch is 200 yards away, and the hunter makes the sound to get the Sasquatch's attention or to let it know he's there. And what does the Sasquatch do? He thinks he's not going to be detected other than the sound. The Sasquatch wheels around, looks right at that hunter, like the hunter has a flashing sign he's holding up or something like that. That's during the daytime. And then at nighttime, they do so many things that clearly point out that their visual acuity at nighttime is just ridiculous. Also, just like during the day, there aren't any animals out there that have eyes that are adapted to be so effective, both during the day, diurnal, and at night, nocturnal. Animals specialize, either specialize in daytime vision or nighttime vision. That's another thing about these guys that just does not make sense at all. So, yeah, I mean, it just makes you scratch your head.
Yeah, there's too many things going on, and the math ain't mathing. I mean, I get it. You know, like I said, every part of me wants it to be just some crazy ape that we haven't caught up to yet. That makes life so much simpler. But the fact is that there's just too much weird things that are reported with it. And they're able to do too many different things, like you just mentioned. I mean, there's so much more going on out here. And, you know, bless their hearts, not everybody wants to agree to that, you know, to the point where somebody will be traumatized and they will take their experience and try to be a little bit cathartic, and they'll go report it to whatever one of these research organizations, and they'll give them the full report. And yet when they go and see it published, there's details that are left out. You know, how would that make them feel? I mean, it's hard enough to wrap your head around it, but all of a sudden now all the details that you gave aren't in the report, and that's going to make you feel like you're crazy or something. Like, not even the dudes that do this believe you. You know what I mean? And that don't help nobody. That's so unfortunate.
Well, the authorities, they're going to do all they can to keep the secret from getting out. And I think for good reason. I hate the fact it has to be that way, because there's so many eyewitnesses who have these encounters, and their family members laugh at them and deride them, and friends make fun of them, and at family get-togethers, they're the punchline. I hate that fact, but I totally understand why the government does not want to let that out of the bag, because society does not react well to things like this. If you let it out of the bag that Sasquatch are actually real, and if you go to a forest near you, you might bump into one, then it would be mayhem. Look how we responded to COVID and other things like that. I just don't think it would go over well at all. And it's going to raise all sorts of questions that a lot of people don't want to have answered. I mean, think about what that's going to do to religion. If we have Sasquatch out there, how human are they? If they are human beyond a certain amount, well, don't they have rights also? And I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It really is an onion. You just peel off layer after layer. So the government is wise not to let that secret out of the bag. And when it comes to Dogmen, holy cow, it's just like that scene from Jaws where Chief Brody was talking to the mayor, letting the mayor know that they had to shut down the whole island. And of course, that was Labor Day weekend. They made their living on that island because of all the tourism, and especially on Labor Day weekend. So the mayor is telling Chief Brody, no, if we shut down the island, I mean, that's going to cause all sorts of trouble for all the people who are counting on that income. And then he goes on to tell Chief Brody, look, if you go down to the beach and yell Barracuda, people say, what? Huh? But if you yell shark, you're going to have a full panic on your hands. Same thing holds true with Sasquatch compared to Dogmen. Yeah, they do not want the whole Sasquatch phenomenon to get out of the bag, but you can multiply that times who knows how many when it comes to Dogmen. They definitely don't want it allowed to be released, put out there that, guess what, in a forest near you, you just might have something that looks like a giant werewolf that can be as tall as 12 feet running loose around there that we can't control. If that got out of the bag, yeah, flat out mayhem. So I hate what comes along with it, like I said, because the Eyewitnesses, unfortunately, they basically deal with the brunt of it. But I can understand why the government will do anything to make sure that that secret never gets out.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. I mean, I'm with you on that. And like you mentioned, wrapping your head around Bigfoot is hard enough. It can be done. I mean, they have enough humanistic features, I guess, in their face to where it's kind of like, once you get over the shock, it's like, okay, I get it. But like Dogman, that's a completely different ball of wax. I mean, wrapping your head around a 12-foot werewolf, I mean, that's enough to make you think that monsters are real, and all these myths and legends all throughout time maybe weren't just myths or legends.
Well, people in the Renaissance times, people in Europe back in the day, people all over, we really didn't have any understanding whatsoever about how the world worked around us. I mean, think about it. Back then in Europe, for example, if you see something like a Dogman, well, people knew about black magic back then, the dark arts. They see something that's walking bipedally, well, the natural conclusion they're going to jump to is, okay, well, somebody must have used witchcraft to be able to transform themselves from the form of a human to that of a beast like this. And then the term werewolf came around. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't know how things worked around them. So what I think they were seeing back then were Dogmen, but they just thought, okay, well, that must be a human that transformed into this monstrous form that I'm looking at right now. And then that's how the whole werewolf legend got started. But that's just an opinion on my part.
Sure. No, it's totally valid. I mean, with my Dogman sighting personally, like the strangeness that leads up to it, like the actual encounter itself, makes me believe that it would be like a stereotypical werewolf. Personally, just my opinion, but I think when it comes to this stuff, like there's more than just one thing going on. I mean, I'm of the opinion that there's whatever creation that the cynocephali were in history, like whatever that is, some kind of chimera, it seems like. There's government created things, definitely. And then there's also, all the occult literature that literally does talk about werewolfism. I mean, it's even like a path in the Church of Satan. Like once you get to a certain point, you go down the route of the werewolf or down the route of the vampire. Granted, do I think most of them are just super edgelords? Yeah. But yet there's also a long history in literature paper trail that goes with that. How much power is there in all that? I don't know. Is it possible that what we're actually seeing is more of a holdover type species, like maybe on the lines of Dinopithecus, or I mean, if you want to go down the conspiracy route of the Egyptians coming over to America at some point in time, and the whole Grand Canyon stuff, and they left their baboons here and they just filled a niche and got big. That's also possible. I mean, people like to confuse Dogman and devil monkey all the time. There's a lot of things going on, and the body structure of it generally is pretty conducive for survival. I mean, you look at a wolf skeleton side by side with a baboon, and it's practically identical. There's a few things that's different, but not too different, So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, I guess is what I'm saying, that it could be, but once again, opinions, right? It's fun to speculate and empty out the head cannon and air all that stuff out.
I can appreciate people grasping for straws trying to explain away what dogmen are, but I can tell you, yeah, canine type dogmen are definitely not a kind of baboon. Baboons, they stand plantigrade. Their back feet are flat on the ground. There are so many credible eyewitnesses who have seen these guys. They've been within grabbing distance of these guys, and they clearly saw hocks. They have hocks instead of ankles, stifled joints instead of knees. So, yeah, baboons, they do not have a leg structure like that. So,
Agreed.
For so many of these people who try to explain away this whole dogman phenomenon and say, well, we're just seeing giant baboons, yeah, that can't be the case. Now, when it comes to type 3s, yeah, I mean, it might explain away some type 3 sightings, which type 3s have hominid style legs, like a Sasquatch or you or I would.
Right.
But there are problems explaining that away. Type 3s, just like canine type dogmen, they always have claws on their fingertips. And baboons, they have tails.
Right.
I don't think I've ever heard about a type 3 being seen that had a tail. And also, too, there's a problem with the dentition. Baboons do have pronounced canine teeth, or upper canines and their lower canines.
Right.
They've got ridiculously big canines, but they're post canines. The teeth directly behind their canines are not sharp and pronounced like that. They're like ours. Well, every single tooth in a type 3's head, if you talk with an eyewitness, they'll tell you. Some people call them face eaters, some people call them googways, some people just call them type 3's. Every eyewitness you'll ever speak with who has seen one of these guys will tell you that every last tooth in its head was sharp, like a shark's. So that precludes the chance that it could be a baboon, because baboons have fingernails and toenails. They don't have claws. And some people, they've got this opinion that, okay, well, every once in a while, one of these things might be born, instead of with fingernails, they're born with claws. Well, yeah, you can have mutations, but having a baby that has the DNA, normally that species has the DNA to have fingernails, but this quote-unquote freakish baby is born with bone-anchored claws instead of fingernails. That is a bridge too far. That does not happen. That cannot happen. So you can't explain it away that way. That doesn't make sense at all.
Right. Well, maybe in their mind, they think this is perhaps the baboon's 13th child, and it's a Jersey Devil type situation, right? Was it the 13th kid? I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of the devil monkey, but I don't think that there is any way to confuse the two. They're extremely different. I mean, granted, I haven't seen a devil monkey, so I couldn't attest to that, but I've seen plenty of baboons in the zoo, and there's no way what I saw was any kind of monkey of any sort. You know what I mean? Like it was just built too wrong, had a wolf head. It's just, I don't know. People and their mental gymnastics. We don't like to call a spade because, I don't know, maybe it offends people these days or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Yeah. Well, man, with all the reports and stuff that you have, covered over the years, and thank you for that, by the way. Um, what are some of like the connecting features about whichever subject that you want to broach that just really strike you that you really want to hammer home to somebody?
Well, the thing that I focus on most when I talk with an eyewitness is the fact that after talking with so many eyewitnesses over the years, it's become crystal clear that I can appreciate the fact that so many eyewitnesses are convinced that they were about to be eaten, and they're so traumatized because they think they had an experience with a bloodthirsty, mindless, monstrous killing machine that would rip them apart as soon as look at them. But I remind them of the fact that, look, you're within grabbing distance and you left the experience without a scratch. And that's not because someone saved you or you did this to save yourself. No. If that dogman wanted to do anything to you, it would have done it. It could have done it. It would have done it. And the good news is it did everything it wanted to do to you. It didn't do a single thing to you that it did not want to do to you. That's the good news in and of itself.
Right.
I mean, when you have an experience that's so profound as that, your reptile brain is going to really fire off and cause you to go places you do not want to go. And that's what causes the problem when it comes to dogman encounters. If someone is really traumatized, that reptile part of their brain, they see how frightening this thing is to look at. It's not supposed to even exist.
Right.
And they jump to conclusions that have nothing to do with reality. Well, my job is just trying to make sure I snap them back to reality and remind them of things that if they were in straight and level flight and not so traumatized by the experience, they would come to those conclusions on their own. But if you are traumatized beyond a certain point, then that's where the problem lies. That's when people tend to be unable to notice the forest in spite of the trees. So I just basically, I help them see that forest clearly. And once I do that, that's when I help them start putting the pieces together so they can move forward with life and realize that, okay, everything is okay. Everything is fine. If it wanted to kill me, it would have. It had every opportunity to. And then you talk with these people, they live way out in the middle of nowhere. They had an encounter 20 years ago right there at their property, and they'll tell me since then they've done things. They're here today because they've done things to protect themselves from these guys. And when I hear that, I say, oh, really? So how have you protected yourself from these dangerous dogmen that live around your property? Well, for example, Vic, I don't go out into the woods. If I have to go deep into the woods, I'll wait until it's a nice, bright, sunny afternoon. And I go out right in the middle of the afternoon, and I never go unarmed. I've always got at least a 45 on my hip, and I do all these things, and I let them finish, and then I tell them, look, if they wanted to get you, they've had every opportunity to get you. And being in your house, I don't go out after dark either, Vic. Well, guess what? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but in a way it's good news that you're literally no safer locked in your basement closet at 3 p.m. than you are being 3 miles out into that big forest around your home at 3 a.m. with a blindfold on. Either way, you're just as vulnerable to these guys. If they wanted to break into your home, there's not a window or a door that would stop them. There's not a wall in your home that would stop them if they wanted to get to you. And the fact that you're still here 20 years later without ever suffering a single bent hair on your head at their claws, I guess you could say, that's a testament to the fact that they don't want to hurt you. They wanted to get a rise out of you. That's the MO for these guys. They want to do whatever they can to get a rise out of you if they do force an encounter to happen in almost every case, but they almost never will harm an eyewitness. Now, I'm going to qualify that. So many people listen to me talk about dogmen and they get it wrong. They say, well, Vic says these things are safe to be around. that
Oh no.
they're not dangerous. And I'll never say that a dog
Right.
man is safe to be around, and I'll never say that they've never hurt people and that there
Mhm.
aren't dogmen out there that are dangerous that will kill you as soon as the opportunity presents itself, because there are dogmen out there that will rip you apart if the opportunity presents itself. But that doesn't make them any different from horses, cattle, pigs, goats, camels, you name it.
Right.
People, any type of species has, if it's big and powerful enough to do so, you're going to have deviant examples that are dangerous and will kill
Mhm.
you if the opportunity presents itself. So why should they be any different? I just basically remind them of things like that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, I don't see how a quarter inch of glass is going to save anybody from this thing doing whatever it wants to do if you're in your house. I mean, you're right. It's ridiculous. It's the person trying to make themselves feel better. It's not living in reality. And truthfully, I mean, when I hear the stories from folks, it's the saddest part about it to me is when they let their experience rob them of their joy of experiencing the great outdoors and God's creation. You know what I mean? Like that cuts me deep, and I hate that. I understand trauma. I get it. Trust me. I've seen the things, and it sucks. It's never fun. It takes a while to process, but you should never let something steal your joy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're letting it win, I guess you could say. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
No, I agree. And I pointed out that it's such a shame when an experience like that will cause a person to swear off ever doing the things they used to love to do, heading into the woods, fishing, hiking, camping, you name it. So, yeah, the whole goal is for them to eventually be able to head back out. Again, no hurry, baby steps, but when they're ready, to be able
Right.
to regain that confidence so they can start going back out into the woods and doing all the things they used to do and love to do.
Right. That's right. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. Well, Mr. Vic, I really appreciate your time tonight. And before we get out of here, will you tell everybody where to find you at?
Sure. If you want to listen to any of my podcasts, all of my podcasts are available on your favorite podcast app like Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio. All the podcast apps have all four of my podcasts. I've got Dogman Encounters Radio. I've got Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio. I've got my Bigfoot sighting, and then my new Dogman podcast called Dogman Tales. And Tales is spelled Tales, not Tails. So if you're looking for it, it's Tales, like Tall Tales.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, brother, I appreciate you, man. And hang out, and I'll get with you right after the credits, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, brother. Well. All right. Well, guys, that was the show. I have to say that, like I said on the intro, I mean, Vic is just a legend, man. I mean, he's been doing this stuff for so long. And I really do appreciate his thoughts and opinions of things. I mean, he has such a bank of knowledge, and stories to draw from to come to these conclusions. And I think it's just refreshing. I really do. I think it's just amazing. It's great stuff. And, I hope one day to be able to have such a knowledge base to pull from as well. It would be really cool. It'd be really cool. But yeah, I really hope that, with all that being said, that we were able to pull the threads and, kind of follow this little web and see where it comes to, because there's a lot of weird out there. There's a lot of weird, and they all seem connected somehow, some way. And if you guys know me, you know where my head goes. But to disagree is fine. It's no big deal. That's what makes life special, right? Like, I feel like there's a saying about variety and spices or something. I don't know. That's a weird history though. I mean, British Empire was all about spices, but yet they never used them. Odd. But anyways, yeah. So guys, I hope you guys loved it and hope we were all entertained at the very least. If we didn't learn anything, I hope we were at least entertained, because I know I sure was, and I definitely learned some things, And yeah, yeah. So guys, there's changes coming down the pipe, we got the memberships going now, and I'm gonna be taking all the Patreon stuff and putting it up here with that. I'll be posting all the, let's see here, all the raw footage like I did for Enigma onto there. So if you guys want to check that stuff out before I have the chance to like really scrub through that, so that you can be the one to say, hey, something at whatever timestamp, do that. I'll put you in the credits. So yeah, there's all that. And yeah, you know the drill. Make sure you guys do the likes, leave the comments if you would. I would really appreciate that. Lord knows the algorithms love it. Let's see here. Yeah, check out the memberships, check out the Patreon. I mean, both of those things are going to be going at the same time. They are a little different, so you might want to shop around and see what you want to do first. But let's see here. What else do we got? Check out the merch. We got merch. Oh, cups. Make sure you guys go and check out Mystic Mountain Creations, because they have awesome cups. They make all my cups, and when you go and check them out, you don't have to necessarily buy my cup. They'll make you whatever cup you want. And all of the proceeds to that, well, not all, but a good portion of the proceeds from that go to help, rebuilding after Hurricane Helene there. So, it's for a good cause, and you're able to help a community that is in need of help. So Mike and Jenny, we love you. So guys, go check them out, and show them some love. Tell them Fisher sent you, or Jim sent you. Either way. But yeah, so that's it for tonight, guys. I love y'all. Tuki tuki, and peace. Bye.
How it's supposed to feel.